Hi. One of the big challenge for technology folks who want to use AI with Salesforce is how do they scratch their own itch? And what I mean by that is how can you apply AI to things beyond sales and service and all of that? As an IT person, if you are a Salesforce admin, a developer, an architect, if you're running a COE, it's a big challenge to ensure that everything that's happening is happening in line with a set of standards, a set of policies. And one of our customers asked, so here you have it. What we have done is we have created a prompt for analyzing Apex. And then using GPTfy, we are basically going to run it and get a result that looks at the code, makes some suggestions. And the beauty of this approach is it's completely declarative. And on the prompt, we can add as many of policies, coding best practices, and other things as we like. So let's take a look. I have created two custom objects, and one of them actually has the Apex class. So now we're going to run GPTfy, and it's going to look at this Apex class called Apex Code Retriever, and it's going to analyze it. So I'm just going to click this. And once you see the results and what it has, then I'll talk about how we can automate this so that it'll run automatically for any new class that gets created since it was last ran, and also for any Apex class that was updated. And the same idea can be applied to any other artifact which is accessible through metadata or tooling API. So we could potentially extend it to flows. We can extend it to business rules, validations, pretty much any kind of stuff inside Salesforce where you have a need to enforce standards in terms of quality, in terms of implementation, and you have a set of rules that we can apply. And the reason it works well is because AI is actually very good with unstructured data. So GPTfy ran, and here is the analysis of this particular class. It's got like some information about what this class particularly does. And then it starts looking at the critical issues. So it finds that the error handling is insufficient, and it basically highlights why, right? Like the method was not implemented. So it's like saying, hey, this is not specific enough and all of that. I'll give you an example of how you can do it so that you have more granular exception handling. Similarly, then it goes on and looks at what other kind of issues it found. So something about input validation, and it explains why this is a problem, how can you fix it, and then some minor improvements. And basically, not only has it run it here, GPTfy has automatically updated it in this rich text field that I have on this custom object so that this is a record that now exists. You can integrate it with Jira, push it out there, and have somebody work on it. You can send out an email. You can basically run a report for all the classes that were automatically analyzed. So the interesting thing about doing something like this is that you have the ability to make changes to it as much as you like. Now, let's take a look at what happened under the hood. I'm going to open this again. And now I'm looking at what's known as the security audit record. This is where GPTfy gives you the entire traceability of what happened under the hood. And this is my prompt, as you can see. And it's looking at, it has a process. It's going to look at code, and it's applying a set of best practices. I basically pulled these best practices from one of the Salesforce best practice document, and I generated this code using AI. And it's looking at code structure, performance, DML operations, so on and so forth. And you can expand it to whatever you need. If you have naming conventions, if you have other kind of things that you want to include, all of that can be here. And the interesting part is now we are getting into the HTML portion of it. So it's going to generate out a nice report that's readable. You can embed hyperlinks to specific documents and references like that. GPTfy supports that. And basically you can have a whole repository of here are some things, then you can point a developer to. This is particularly useful if you're driving a center of excellence type initiative, or you're a large organization, or you work with a lot of consultants and partners, and you want something to automatically run this. And then it gives you enough of an indication so that you can peel the onion and see what else is happening here. The other thing that I did not do here, but you could, is you could actually give it a scoring so that it can update the status to pass or fail or not accepted or something. And that way it dramatically streamlines what you're trying to do. So that's on the security audit record. And basically what happened is when we ran this, it pulled this data, right? It's going to pull this. There's an implementation of some interface there. It's basically pulling all this data and sending it to AI. And this is the response that we got. This is the formatted version. And then you can, I think, below see the unformatted raw version that came back, token usage and everything. And then we reformat it. So that's what's happened on this front. And as I mentioned, you have the ability to make changes to it. But there is a little more interesting things that are happening here. So if I go to this prompt, what you will see is under the hood, we are using what's known as an API data source. So GPTfy provides you the ability to invoke custom Apex class. So basically I have this Apex code retriever class here, and I have a bunch of them that I've written. And essentially when we run this prompt, it looks at the name of the class that we want to run it against, invokes this Apex class that's here in the API data source, pulls the code and then pushes it along with the prompt to AI, gets a response and updates it here. The other interesting part of this is that we have created this as a parent-child object. So I can go to this object called dev artifact, and essentially I have a bunch of dev artifact reviews underneath it. So if you have a class, the first time we identify it, we create this parent record, and then we create this one child record. Then every time that class gets updated, we keep on adding new child record, and the analysis will run on the most recent one. And the idea is you have a complete log of the sort of life cycle of how that code evolved and what all things can you do. There probably are other tools that let you do a lot of things like these I'm not aware of, but the idea here was that you have one single tool that your sales can use, your service can use, finance, operation, legal, compliance can use, and now developers can also use. So the beauty of bringing AI into an on-platform solution on Salesforce and to bend it to your will to suit needs and do things that you want to do is something that I really like about with GPTfy. And we did this in a matter of hours. It was really easy to put this together. And so if this interests you or anything else on the GPTfy front that interests you, let me know. Hope this was useful. Thank you so much.